Hello everybody, this is Shane with Starner's Woodworking, and today I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful red oak clock with blue resin. So I found this board actually in a stack of lumber we got milled up, and I saw the knot in the middle with the circle, and there really wasn't much we could do. So I decided to make a clock out of it. But anyways, I'm here just finding a center and cutting each side down to make it a little more manageable. So once I have each side cut off, I'm just going to go back real quick and remove the bark. Luckily, this board was pretty dry, so the bark came off without a problem. Next, I'm getting my router sled with my router here. I'm just using a 1-inch flattening bit, and I'm going to flatten the sucker down. Now, I'm not trying to get it perfectly flat here. I'm just taking a couple light passes. I'll come back and hit it again once the resin is in the knot. But basically I'm doing this just so I can get a good bond down to the piece of plywood so we don't have resin leaking everywhere. And once I finish the top, I'm just going to flip it over to the back and hit that real quick. After this step here, I will be going back with a wire brush real quick and just trying to get all the loose debris and dirt out because I don't want any of that mixing in with my epoxy. Now here I'm just applying some mold release tape to an old scrap piece of plywood. I'm definitely not getting too fancy with the mold here, but in the end it does the trick for me. Next, I'm going to apply a small layer of silicone here, and this kind of acts as a dam once you flip it over and press it down, and this really helps keep the epoxy just in that knot area and not go everywhere. Once I have a good layer applied, I'm just going to press this down and come back with a 5-gallon bucket with some stones in it to act as a clamp there. Then leave it dry for a day or so, I would say. Once I have everything clamped down here, it's finally time to pour the resin. So for the resin, I'm just using a tabletop epoxy with some Caribbean blue pigment from Black Diamond Pigments. And since it's tabletop epoxy, I'm actually going to do this in 2 pours. After letting that cure for a full day, it's time to finally demold it. I'm just taking a 1/2-inch chisel here with a rubber mallet and trying to separate that silicone from the tape. Luckily, the resin actually doesn't stick. I just need to remove that silicone. After that, I'm just going to try to remove as much silicone as possible because I heard it is not good for your blades, so it's better to be safe than sorry. After this, I just drove a nail into the center of the epoxy there, and the reason this is okay is because I'll be drilling that out anyways for the clock parts. Here I'm just going back with my bandsaw and cutting the circle out and trying to stay on the line as best as I can. After the bandsaw, it's back over to the router flattening jig. And the reason I ran it on the bandsaw first is because it was just less material I had to remove at the end, so it just made more sense to me. This time, though, I'm making sure I get every low spot and getting it as flat as I possibly can. Here are the clock parts that I'm using. I just ordered them off of Amazon. They were like 10 bucks, but they're exactly what I'm looking for this project. Now I'm just going around marking the edges of the battery pack there so I can route it out and create a recessed home for that part. I'm using that 1-inch bit to hog most of the material out there. Then I'll be coming back with a 1/8 inch straight bit to just kind of get the little corners that I couldn't get with that bit. So once I have that back cavity out, routed to where I like it, I'm just taking a drill bit here and drilling out the middle. This is so the back battery pack can connect to the hands in the front. Now time for a test fit to see if it fits here, and it looks like it does. Now after this, I'm routing out the 12, 3, 6, and 9 dashes along the clock. And originally I wasn't quite sure if I should go this route and route these out. Firstly, because I've never done this. And secondly, I wasn't sure if it would add to it or take away. And in the end, I'm definitely glad that I did it because I think it was a nice touch. Once that epoxy is set and I have it sanded through all the grits to my liking, I'm going back and adding a 45-degree chamfer here. The chamfer bit is definitely one of my favorite bits in my collection as I think it always adds to the project. Finally, I get to throw some finish on it, and this is when it really gets the pop. So here I'm just using a natural polyurethane finish, and I'll put a layer or two on each side here. After I let those coats of polyurethane dry, I'm mixing up a little bit of 5-minute epoxy here just to hold the clock backing in. I'm not quite sure if it's necessary, but I did it just for a safe measure. Then I can flip it over here and put the rest of the parts together. After this, it is all done. Alright everyone, I'll be wrapping up the video now. I'm super happy with how this clock turned out. It's actually the first one I've ever made. I think the blue resin really complements the oak and the wood grain. If you guys think you've learned something from this video, consider subscribing and hitting a like. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.